Hello everyone. In today's video, we're gonna build a showcase for your code or a piece of text that you want to also copy when you click a button. So when you hover this section right here, a copy button will appear. You can click it, a message that your code was copied will be displayed, and if you want to go anywhere and paste that code, you can, and it will paste it. A lot of websites have this feature, so it's a really nice to have if you want to display code or text that you want your users to copy easily without having to select it and use their keyboard or their mouse to copy. Okay, let's start building this. I have an empty index.html file here, just the boilerplate code where I have linked the style sheet and the JavaScript file, and the style sheet and JavaScript files are empty, so we're gonna build this from scratch. I'm using an extension called Live Server. You can get it by searching for Live Server, and here it is. You can, it's actually this one. You can install it, and after you have installed that extension, you right click in your HTML file and click open with Live Server, and your file will be open in your browser. And whenever you change something and save, it will automatically refresh your web page. So that's really nice to have when developing your website. Okay, so first let's build the markup for this. So we're gonna have a div with a class of container. Inside this div, first we're gonna do a paragraph which will have our language name. We're also gonna give it a class of language. Okay, after this there's gonna be a div with the class of code wrapper. So this will wrap our piece of code so we can style it. Then we have the two tags that we need to add in order to format our code and display it the way we want it. So it's first a pre tag, and then inside we're gonna put a code tag. And inside this code tag, I'm just gonna copy a code snippet I have right here. And we're gonna paste it like this. One thing we're gonna have to do, because this pre-formats our code, so we don't want these spaces right here. So I'm gonna have to manually delete all of these spaces because I don't want them to appear in my code snippet. So we're just gonna have to delete these manually. Unfortunately, I didn't find another way to do this quicker. Tab this, end of our function. Okay, so now you can see our piece of pre-formatted code is right here in our browser. We have the p tag. Okay, after this, still inside the div, we're also gonna give this code an ID of code so we can get it inside our JavaScript file. Here we're gonna also add a button with the ID of copy button, and we're gonna say copy in it. And then we also need, still inside our container, so right here we're gonna also add a span that's gonna say code copied. And we're also gonna give this an ID of copy success. Great, so this is it for our markup. Now we will start doing the styling for this, and after that we're gonna do the JavaScript part with the copy functionality. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do here, on everything I like to set a margin 0 and the padding of 0, and also box sizing border box, so that if we set a width on something, the padding and will also, and the margins will also be contained in that. Great. Now let's style our body. So first thing I want to do is have a background color for it. I'm gonna copy the color from right here. Great. Now we want to display everything flex. So that container, we want to display it flex because I want to align it in the center. And we're gonna do it like this. Also, we want to give it a height of 100 viewport heights. Great, so now everything is in the center and we have that nice background color. Great, after that we want to style the container. So the container, we're gonna give it a width of, let's say, 500 pixels. And we're gonna set it to overflow X auto. So if we have larger snippets of code, like longer lines, we will have to scroll through them, not overflow our container. Great, so now let's style our language p tag. So this title right here. Okay, we're gonna give it a color of white, background color. Let me get this. So we have this color right here. Okay, let's give it a padding so it doesn't look so squished. 16 pixels. And then I want to give it some border radius at the top to make those round corners. And we're gonna also add some border radius on the code snippet, so it will have these rounded borders at the bottom too. And what I want to do next, this is selected, I want to align the text to the right. I like the way it looks like this. Great, so now for our code wrapper div, I just want to position this relative, because inside it we're gonna position absolute the copy button, and we need to set this. Okay, so what's next? Next we're gonna have to style our pre-tag, so the container for our code. So let's do code wrapper.pre-tag. We're gonna also give it a background color, something darker this time. I'm gonna copy it from right here. Okay, so it's gonna be something darker. The color, for the moment, we're gonna set it to white. Later in this video, I'm gonna show you how to do that real nice colors for each tag. You will see it's a pretty nice library that you can use. Okay, now let's see what's next. Let's add a padding to it. Let's say 8 pixels top and bottom, and around 20 pixels left and right, so it looks nice and centered there. Okay, and also let's add that border radius I was telling you at the bottom. So we're gonna have 0 top, 0 right, 5 and 5 pixels. and now we get those nice rounded corners right here. Great. Okay, so this looks pretty nice up until now. We still have the copy button and this this message that the text was copied. So let's do the copy button. It has an ID of copy button, I believe. Yes. So we have the copy button. We're gonna position absolute, top 0, right 0. Okay, maybe let's do around 8 pixels on both sides. Great, let's add a padding to this, also 8 pixels. We're gonna give it the background color from the language tag, so we're gonna do this. Great, we also don't want any borders, so we're gonna remove them and the outline when we click on it. So we don't want to click on it and have that outline. The color also should be white. Okay, that looks pretty good now. Also, we could do a border radius on it. Let's say also 5 pixels, just like the container. A cursor pointer, so we know we can click it. And then a transition time for cursor pointer here. And transition for all properties of 0.2 seconds and ease in, because we're gonna also add a hover effect here. Okay, so the copy button, the hover, we're just gonna set the background color to the same color but a little transparent. So at the end we're gonna add another hex value and we're gonna make it transparent, and it will look something like this. So when we hover it, the background would be more transparent. Great. So what I want to do now is I don't want to show this copy button when we don't hover the text box. So I'm gonna set the opacity here to 0, and then when we hover on the code wrapper, we're gonna target the copy button and set the opacity to 1. So it disappears, and when we hover it, it appears. Great. Now, the last thing we have to style here is the copy text. So the ID for it was copy success. Okay, so we're gonna position this absolute bottom, let's say 12 pixels, left 50%. Then we're gonna translate it on the x-axis with minus 50% of its width, so we have it perfectly centered. Okay, let's give it the same background color as the language. So we're gonna do background color here. Color will be white. Then I can add a padding of 16 pixels and let's say 32, so it's nice and big, and the font size of 24 pixels should be enough. Okay, let's also make this rounded because we went with that style up until now, so it's nice and rounded. Okay, last thing we have to do now is we don't want to display this until we actually copy the text. So we're gonna display none, and then we're also gonna create a class For the moment it's not anywhere, but I'm gonna call it show message. Okay, and on this we're just gonna say display inline block. So now if I go in the index.html, now the message is hidden, but if I add the class show message, we get the message. So we're gonna add this class in the JavaScript file and when we actually click the copy button. Okay, so our styling looks pretty good now. It's what I wanted to have up until now. Let's go into the JavaScript file and add the copy button functionality. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is add an event listener because I loaded the script in the head with defer, and we're gonna wait for the DOM content to be loaded. Then we're gonna add an arrow function here. Okay, so now this function will run after the HTML and CSS has loaded. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our HTML elements. So we have the code here. We also need to get the copy button and the copy text. Okay, so constant code block is gonna be document.getElementById and code. Then the copy button is gonna be copy button, and then the copy success. Let me make sure I had all the classes right. So copy button, copy success, and code. Great. So now we're gonna add an event listener for the copy button. When we click on it, we're gonna call a function that it's gonna be called copy text handler. Now let's define that function. Copy text handler is gonna be an arrow function. Okay, so in this we're gonna have two different methods of copying the text. So we're gonna first use an older way that works in most browsers, and then we're gonna use the newer Clipboard API, which might not actually work in some older browsers like Internet Explorer or things like that. So that's why I want to show you two different versions. You can use whichever one you prefer. Okay, so let's first get the text, which we have in the code block dot inner text. So this way we have this text right here. Now let's do the first version. We're gonna use document.execCommand copy. I'm just gonna leave it here so you guys can know which one is which. So for this, we can't actually run the copy command on this text variable. We actually have to tell the browser that the users kind of selected the text and wants to copy it. So what we're gonna do for this is we're gonna create an element that's gonna be a text area, because you can select the text in a text area and write on it and things like that. So we're gonna add the text area to to the body. Then we're gonna set its value to the text that we just got from our code block. We're gonna select the text using the select function. And then after we have selected the text, we can use the exact command copy. And this will copy our text. Also, after we copy the text, we're gonna remove the child that we created. So we don't want to leave the text area in we don't want to leave the text area here in our DOM when we copy. We just want to copy the text. Okay, so let's try and see if it works. I'm just gonna copy some text right here so we know what exactly in our clipboard. And if I press copy, we don't get the message, but if I want to paste it here, you can see that we got our function. So this works nicely. Let's also display our copy success message. So we're gonna first add the class list that we created to display it. Show message, I believe it was called. Yeah, it's show message. And then we want to actually remove it after some time. So I'm gonna remove it after around 2.5 seconds. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna set a timeout. We're gonna have the function, and after 2.5 seconds, we're gonna remove the class list from the copy message. So let's see if it works. So I click the button, the message appears, and then it disappears after 2.5 seconds. So this works really nice. Great. Now the next thing I'm gonna show you is the second version. So the second version is gonna use the Clipboard API. So we can do navigator.clipboard, and we're gonna have to write the text. We don't need to actually ask for the permissions to use the clipboard if we do this while clicking a button. But if you want to write something to the clipboard without the user actually clicking on a button or a link or something like that, you will have to ask permissions. I'll leave a link in the description below with the documentation for this Clipboard API. You can get the way to ask for the permissions to use the clipboard from there. So this write text method will give us a promise, so we can chain a .then to it, and this will give us a function. In this function, we can do this will be the function that runs when the text has succeeded copying to the clipboard. So in this one, we're gonna actually copy the success message and also the timeout. So I'm gonna comment these out from the first version, and also here actually I'm just gonna move it here so all is in order, and comment it too, and I'll align them better. So now this function will run when our text was copied to the clipboard successfully, and the second argument is gonna be the function that will run when the text wasn't successfully copied. So we're just gonna console log error writing to the clipboard. Great. So this is the second way to do it, using the Clipboard API. Let's see if it actually works. So what we're gonna do, because we already have this thing copied in our clipboard, I'm gonna change the number here so we can verify that it's actually worked like that. I'm gonna copy. It said that my code was copied, so it entered this this success function. So let's see if it actually worked. It's nice. We have the 155 here in the Fibonacci console log, so that means it's working. Great. So now you have a fully functional copy for text. You can have the text you want to copy doesn't have to come from a code element, so doesn't have to come from a code tag. You can actually get it from any tag that you like. So if you want to change something, let's say you want to copy this JavaScript right here from a p tag, I'm gonna add a language copy ID to it, and we're gonna go here, and I want to show you that this actually works with any element. So language copy was the ID that I gave to it, and we're gonna get the inner text from this one. I just used it inline because I'm gonna delete it later. So now if I press the copy button, it says that it copied it successfully, and we get the text from the p tag. So you can use this to copy text from anywhere inside your website. It's really useful if you have some text that will always want to get copied by your users. So the last part of this video, we're gonna actually use a code highlighter to highlight the keywords in this. For this, we're gonna use a library called Highlight.js. I'll leave a link in the description below to the documentation. To use this library, we have to add first a script to the end of our body tag. So this is the script for the Highlight JS library that from the CDN. And also we need to add in the head of our page, I'll just copy the style sheet that will style the different elements. Okay, so we added both of them. Now the last thing we have to do for this to work is to go into our JavaScript file right at the top right here, and to call a method that we get from the Highlight.js library is called init highlight on load. This method, when it is run, and it will be run right at the top of our JavaScript file, when this runs, it will get all the code elements that we have in our website, and it will format them. Okay, wait, this doesn't work for some reason. Okay, I wrote the function wrong. It's init highlighting. Wait, I'm gonna copy it because it seems I'm really misspelling it today. Great. And you see, okay, so it's init highlighting. I misspelled the name of the function. Now you see, okay, it added some styling right here, but we're gonna fix that in a moment. But you can see that different parts of our code are highlighted differently. So first thing we're gonna do, let's get rid of that ugly white background there because we want to keep ours. So what we're gonna do to fix that, let's look at what actually happened to when we ran that method. So that function added two classes to our code tag. One is called HL.js and one is called JavaScript. The JavaScript identifies which language it is, and then it formatted our text, and you can see it added some classes. So if you want to style each of these class by yourself, you can do that, but I will show you how to actually get a theme similarly to the themes used in VS Code, for example, so you can format it exactly like in VS Code in a moment. But first thing we're gonna do, let's remove the white background. For that, we're gonna go into the style.css and we're gonna get the HL.js class, and we're gonna set the background color to transparent. Okay, now we got rid of that background color, but our code doesn't really look too well. It's not meant to look good on a darker background, but we're gonna fix that. So for this, we're gonna use we're gonna get another CSS file. So this is the default styling for the Highlight.js library. I'm gonna comment that one out. So as you can see now, everything disappeared. And I'm gonna add another CSS. I'm also gonna leave the link in the description below for this CSS. We actually have to go and clone it from the GitHub of this repository. So we can go here. I will leave the link in the description below. It's this theme right here. And if we go to the bottom, here we have install using Git. So after we link the style sheet in our index.html, we just copy this Git message, open any terminal we want. I'm gonna use the one built in VS Code. And we're just gonna run the git clone command. If you don't have Git, you will have to install it first on your PC globally. So we run the git clone command, and after it finishes, we can go back to our website, and if we refresh, you can see now we have a nice formatter with this Dracula.css theme. You can also get exactly this theme in Visual Studio Code. So that's pretty nice. There are like hundreds of themes for this Highlight.js library. I'll leave the link in the description for both the Highlight.js library and this particular theme that I found the most interesting. Now, this was it for the video today. I hope you enjoyed creating this awesome code showcase. So if you liked it, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can get notified when I release new videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.